Hello and welcome. Francis here. Thank you for coming back to my channel. If this is your first time here, I bid thee welcome. There is a subscribe button below if you would like to help support this channel by subscribing. Also a bell to be notified as to when we upload more content. I'm coming to you from Ghana country, and as such, I acknowledge the Ghana people of the Adelaide Plains as being the traditional custodians of the lands upon which I reside. So this video is going to be about the upcoming full moon, which will be taking place here in Adelaide, South Australia on Thursday, the 13th of February at 12:23 a.m. Depending on where you are in the world, this could very well be the evening before on the 12th, but it'll be in the astrological sign of Leo, the lion, at 24 degrees. And just before I launch into my update, I'm not an astrologer. I don't pretend to be an astrologer. I sort of do gather the informations that resonate with me from other astrologers to compile the sort of summary, and I put a link below as to the astrologers who I have been drawing inspiration from. So please check out their reports as well, and you'll find them all in the links below. So at a full moon, we have the sun and the moon opposite each other. And this means that the sun is at 24 degrees of Aquarius. The sun is illuminating the moon. It's illuminating something that you are meant to see or something that you're meant to know. Something is coming up to the surface. And because full moons are about endings, culminations, letting go, it could also be illuminating something that is changing, that needs to be surrendered. If you have a copy of your natal chart, look to see what house 24 degrees of Leo and Aquarius fall in, whether you have any planets and points there, because that can give you a deeper level of insight as to what area in your life you need to sort of let something go, something's coming to an end. This axis of Leo and Aquarius is connected with the arts and sciences. It's also connected with human awareness. So there could be something coming to light that you are getting the feeling drawn to offer to the world, to the collective consciousness. This may be something that you may not already be aware of that's coming to the surface, or that you're now finding you're having the courage to present it, having the courage to shine your own light, so to speak. And this is because Leo is associated with courage. It's a fixed fire sign. And it's also connected with the self and sovereignty. It's ruled by the sun. It's also is associated with a sense of pride, self-worth. But there's also a degree of playfulness and creativity. So this full moon can also be encouraging us to step into the spotlight in order to embrace our own individuality and also sense of recognition. You might even be seeking recognition for something that we feel we deserve. There is, as I said, the sense of confidence, but it could be an emotional time, very intense emotional time. Very deep, heart-centered emotions can also be coming up to the surface because Leo is connected with and ruled by the heart. Another important thing to sort of think about at this full moon is, if you can, cast your mind back to the new moon in August last year, because that new moon was in Leo. What seeds did you plant back then? What has now come to fruition? What still applies and needs to be released? As I said, the full moon is all about releasing, letting go. What is interesting with this full moon in Leo and the sun in Aquarius is that they're forming a T-square, so that's 90-degree angle with Uranus. And Uranus is at around about 23 degrees, 20 minutes of Taurus. And it has actually stationed direct rather recently. I think it was just after the new moon, which was on the 30th of January, Uranus stationed direct. And being an outer planet, when these planets station direct after being retrograde, there is a lot of energy. And Pam Gregory uses this analogy, which I really love. It's like a huge ocean liner stopping and turning. And as it begins to turn to go the other way, there is this build up of energy. So if you have your natal chart again, look, see where 23 degrees of Taurus fits in your chart, what house it's in, because it's going to be at this particular degree point for the next couple of months, meaning that there is a lot of energy there to be released. And as such, this T-square will be allowing the opportunity to release all this pent-up energy. And things could even come to the head at this full moon and being channeled through this lens of Uranus, which can be rather rebellious and disruptive. However, there could also be a sudden emotional breakthrough, and the suddenness is also connected with Uranus as well, urging almost bold expressions while confronting unexpected changes, while they become more stable. So we're sort of like a huge upheaval, sort of a reawakening, a shedding that maybe, again, we have not expected. But in doing so, this will be giving us the opportunity to tap into, to do a bit of a deep dive into some deep healing. And this is all because of Chiron, which is the asteroid. It's known as the wounded healer, being active. And Chiron's energy guides us to a place where, while it may be painful and almost traumatic, but it allows us that space to transmute the pain, the experience, into something worthy and beautiful, and enabling us to move forward. And I do acknowledge that some wounds often or can cut very deep and can be with us in this lifetime, like they can never leave us. But when we tap into the power of life, we have the opportunity to create, to utilize, to transform the experience, and then to step into a life that's embracing more beauty, peace, and joy. So with this full moon and its T-square with Uranus, there could be changes and upsets becoming present. So come back to the breath. I think that's probably the best advice I can offer. It's like riding the wave. It's just like these things are happening for us as opposed to us. And there is a deeper, more powerful message in it that we may not see at this current time due to other things happening or where we are, or the place we're at. So come back to the breath and see if we can hold that space for Chiron's messages to come through and offer us a little bit more comfort. Just keeping in mind that the full moon is about endings, about culmination. And sometimes as we inhale, we forget to exhale. At a full moon, it's the time to surrender on the exhalation, to allow what needs to fall away, to do just that, to fall away. And not to be so attached to the moment of the emotion, but just to allow it to rise up and then surrender and let it move through us. And if you are local, if you live in Adelaide, then on the evening of the evening before the full moon, I usually do this on the evening before. So on Wednesday, the 12th of February, I will be holding a full moon gathering down at Largs Bay. It's only a gold coin, all these change donation. So bring with you a small offering that could be thrown into the water. So a flower, a shell, a pebble, something that's biodegradable. It's also going to be a rather hot day. So there's a fly here. It's going to be a rather hot day. I think it's going to be either 37 or 40 degrees. And if you're in the old scale, that's nearly 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So you might want to bring your bathers and take a dip afterwards. I think I might be going into the water. I almost did last month at the Mayor event. And what's interesting too, we've been talking about surrendering and letting go with this full moon, is that when we gather, it's going to be after the high tide. So tide itself will be ebbing. So we've got a lot of sort of energetics that are going to assist us in letting go. So if this is something that you're interested in participating in, I'll put the links below in relation to the full moon gathering and also to the other astrologers who I use to put this presentation together. And another thing about letting go as well, taking that sort of deep dive, using this energy of Chiron, the wounded healer, and working through the deeper wounds. And we all have these deeper wounds, creating space for them and transmuting that knowledge that our soul has been gifted in this lifetime. And I know sometimes it doesn't feel like that, is that in March, I'm just going to share my screen here to the Mystical Soul Academy. If you haven't come across this before, I will be offering my 7-part course called Embracing the Shadows. So you just go to Mystical Soul Academy and hit on Embracing the Shadows and Rebirthing the New. So this is a 7-part journey. It will consist of live Zoom calls, but they will be recorded. So if the time zone does not relate to where you are in the world, everybody who signs up will get a copy of all the recordings. So it is an embodied adventure, as I call it, to your deep soul self and back again. We will be using sacred myth, stories, symbolism, and much more. And I won't go through the event because I've talked about this earlier and you can find it on the website. But we are coming into our deep shadow self. We are stepping through the gates like Inanna in the Sumerian myth steps through to meet Perishkagul, her older sister. I'm a little bit debatable about that, depending on the myth. But every fortnight we gather for a story starting on Thursday, the 6th of March. So it might actually be Wednesday, depending on where you are in the world, where we take this journey to our authentic self. And doing so, we should move beyond shadow work. I do find a lot of, I'm scrolling down to the modules, a lot of the shadow work today tend to just focus on the identification of triggers and not guiding people through the transformation stage. So we will be using the Inanna story as sort of a background. It's a very common myth that is associated with sort of work, but we'll be using other stories as well. So we start on our descent, like Inanna. We also incorporate the Kore Persephone myth as well, transformation of innocence. So we're looking at the Kore version of the myth. We also bring in one of my favorite goddesses, Kali Ma, to help us remove the illusional attachments that we may have. When it comes to identifying ourselves and our place in the world, we come back to Persephone and looking at whether she wanted to be saved or not. She did take the pomegranate seeds right at the end. And what did she discover in the darkness of her own self? This is what Carl Jung talks about when he refers to it as the golden shadow. We then step a little bit sideways and look at Medusa's myth and the masks that we wear, especially in our modern society. We then go back and look at our family past. I call them the ghosts from the family past. So this can be intergenerational wounding, the shadows that would come through. Even if we have been adopted in this lifetime, there will be elements that we may be carrying within ourselves from our family past that we may not be aware of, and this just makes it a little bit harder if we do not know our birth line, but there are ways on ceremonies that we'll be undertaking to go beyond that limitation of maybe not knowing who our birth parents are. And then as we reawaken the inner self, and we have all these gifts and all this knowledge, we then start to integrate it as we ascend. So that is starting on, so it's held every fortnight for 14 weeks. We're embracing the shadows and birthing the new, and you'll find it more on the Mystical Soul Academy website. And again, I'll put the links below. So coming back to this full moon. This full moon is about deep breathing, riding the waves, surrendering, opening ourselves up to much needed change. I think it's also about another timely reminder that we are not isolated. We are all connected to the greater consciousness, to the greater collectiveness. So what we project out, felt shaped, and I have talked about this in another video, our energetics, our thoughts, our feelings, the words we use, all of this goes into the wider energetic collective that surrounds our planet. So where are we coming from? Where are we in our heart coming from? Uranus is in Taurus. This is about our foundations. It's about our value. Where do our values lie? And due to the unpredictability of Uranus, should I say the rebellious nature, could actually come to light that we are holding on to values or perceptions that no longer align with us. And we need to let the old go. And I know especially in our modern world, if we change our mind, it seems to be the end of the world in some arenas. But as spiritual beings, as we ebb and flow, as we grow through our experiences, we will always be changing. And that also includes the lens throughout we look at. So come back to your body, allow yourself that important healing space, breathe. And I think, as I said, the best advice is learn to ride the wave, even if you just need to bring things back a little bit more. Coming back to the body and surrender. Blessings.